Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
So here we are now, just over 3 months away from Election Day, November 3rd, and public polls continue to show Joe Biden with a healthy lead over President Trump. But let's not forget that Biden's a guy who made it through the primaries only because the Democratic Party was desperate to take down Bernie Sanders and his socialist agenda, so they essentially ran every other candidate out of the race. But these days, it's hard to distinguish between the positions of the old-time liberal Joe Biden and the progressive firebrand Bernie Sanders. Joining us to discuss what the Biden agenda really is and why he continues to lead in the polls despite hardly showing his face in public is LibertyNation.com political columnist Joe Schaeffer. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well, and welcome back. Always good to have you. Is Joe Biden essentially channeling Bernie Sanders with his progressive campaign platform?
Well, I guess you can say he is. I liked your introduction there because it really spells it out. And what's going on here is a deceit. It's an attempt to deceive the American public. Joe Biden isn't a progressive. The party is demanding that he be a progressive, yet they chose him because he's supposedly more electable. So they're running a candidate who is not what he is claiming to be in a post-2016 American climate where people have said, we want honesty with our politicians. It's not so much, oh, he's got an R in his name, he's got a D. We want real people who are going to mean what they say. And the Democrats, again, we've been saying it over and over, they're running an old style campaign. You know, this might have been great in 1976. It's not 1976 anymore. Can you lie to the American people and get elected? I have my doubts with a weak candidate like Joe Biden. He's not exactly, charismatic and influential. So we'll see.
Joe Schaeffer, the master of understatement. Joe, is it fair or unfair to say that Joe Biden is in favor of defunding the police?
Again, it's fair to say that he's stating that he's in favor of that. He's going along with this hard left agenda. He's making smiley faces to the Black Lives Matter radicals. But again, he doesn't believe any of this stuff. So yeah, Joe Biden might say something that we could say, hey, he's for favoring defunding police. But the bigger issue to me is we all know he doesn't believe any of this stuff. And I think in the long run, that is going to hurt him more politically, his phoniness, than the radical things that the progressive base is pressuring him to say.
Interesting take. Now, the polls have not tightened that much since we last spoke here about 3 weeks ago. Biden still up by an average of 8.5 points in the national polls, according to Real Clear Politics. Do you still believe these polls are all wrong?
A broken clock is right twice a day, or that expression. It's to me, it's not right or wrong. I do think they're wrong, by the way, but it's not that. It's, you don't deserve my trust. You showed me, especially in 2016, that you're flagrantly partisan, and Hillary's got a 93% chance of winning, all that stuff, and you were spectacularly wrong. There's just no reason to believe what you're saying. So it's not, to me, they're right, they're wrong. It's, you don't matter. You're not giving me any useful information. So I throw out those polls, and it doesn't mean, hey, Trump's in a wonderful position. It just, this information does not matter.
Well, last time the polls got it completely wrong because they just couldn't figure the Trump voters. But now, with every word a white person says in public being parsed, would you expect the so-called silent vote for Trump to be larger or smaller this time? And is it likely to be decisive?
Well, that's an outstanding point. These people, these pollsters, people aren't telling them the truth. Why you want to say something where you could get in trouble, you could be punished, mind crimes just for telling them that you're going to vote for President Trump. So that's going to underperform his numbers. But again, like I said, I don't believe in them anyway. I believe if there was overwhelming evidence that Trump was winning the polls, they would twist and distort it in some way to change that. They just don't deserve the American people's trust in any way, shape, or form.
Well, let's talk about the president. Is Donald Trump, in your view, conveying a winning message? And if not, what's he doing wrong?
Yeah, I really don't think he is. I'm surprised that this keeps going on, that he does not go back to, he talks about his instinct. I think his instincts are right, to connect with the people, a populist America First message, which is why he won in 2016. He's getting bad advice. I'm glad to see he shook up his campaign staff a little bit, got Brad Parscale out of the top role. They want to run this kind of a normative political machine campaign, reaching out to people that probably aren't going to vote for him anyway, trying to expose Joe Biden for previous tough on crime comments he made. Well, most Trump voters are tough on crime. They want him to be the law and order candidate, and bringing up some quote Joe Biden said in 1994 about getting tough on crime it's not going to help get Trump elected. What is going to help is him emphasizing that he'll crack down on these protests in the streets. I think the whole thing with the secret federal police, that's great for Trump. People want to say, hey, he's doing something. These Democratic mayors are letting their cities burn, and Trump is stepping in. So this is all positive messaging. And do his advisors realize that, when he's taking heat from the establishment, he's doing something right.
Can Joe Biden win the election by continuing to do what he's been doing, staying in his basement and saying nothing, proposing nothing, coming out of the cave every once in a while for a friendly interview on CNN or MSNBC?
I would say no, but I never thought Joe Biden was going to be the nominee. I was as adamant as that as possible. So I think it's crazy that he even got to this position. How do you win hiding from the American people in a general election? Well, you do it with a coronavirus pandemic, which is, going to help him. Let's keep everyone locked down so he can't go out and interact with the American people. And having all this crisis theater, these protests in the streets, all the chaos helps him. But ultimately, at some point, doesn't he have to stand up and tell the American people what he is really about? The Democrats seem to be hoping, no, they can run out the clock and not make Joe Biden have to do that. It seems impossible to me that he could win that way. Yet here he is as the presumptive Democratic nominee. And I thought that was impossible in a rapidly progressive Democratic Party a few months ago. So who knows? It's a crazy year. I think Trump is looking very strong, much stronger than people say.
All bets are off, it seems, because the whole context of the election has flipped completely in the last 6 months. But when Joe Biden comes out of his basement, or when he does, it's going to be, as of now, for 3 debates that are scheduled September 29th, October 15th, and 22nd, vice presidential debate October 7th. As of now, those debates are on. Can Joe Biden beat President Trump in a debate? And if he thinks he can't, will he try to pull out?
I think you're going to see him try to pull out. I think he knows that that's going to be a disaster. Him face to face with Trump, maybe once, but and he can dodge and get on his bicycle and try to avoid the big punches. I don't think he could survive 3 times. Look at what the situation he's being put in. The progressive base is demanding he says things that is going to alienate the voters he needs in a general election. If he says the things that'll attract more moderate voters, his base is going to become furious with him. So he's going to take heat either way. He can't win, and he's dealing with this unconventional politician who's just quick on his feet, made for the debate scenario, which I think he showed, especially in the Republican primaries in 2015. I think Trump's going to eat his lunch in a one-on-one debate, and I think they know that. So, no, I think they're going to try and keep him in his basement as long as they possibly can.
Well, the New York Times suggested that Biden should declare that he'll take part in a debate only with the 2 conditions that Trump releases his tax returns and that a real-time fact-checking team approved by both candidates be hired by the Commission on Presidential Debates. So they're already laying the predicate, the groundwork for saying he's not going to debate unless Trump agrees to these completely reasonable terms.
You know, and what's interesting about that, very interesting about that, is that the Biden campaign has already followed the directives of the New York Times editorial staff. Another Democratic strategist wrote an op-ed basically spelling out how they should treat Biden during the coronavirus pandemic. Keep him in his basement, have him do interviews with lots of local news people. They thought that would be safe and harmless. And actually, it didn't work out very well because he just did the same gaffes on local news that he would do on national news. But what was most interesting about that is they pretty much followed the game plan of this writer for the New York Times. So again, I say, do they really have a plan for this guy besides hiding him? I don't think they really have an idea for how to present him. If they have to get him out of his basement and have to present him to the American people, they don't have a coherent message. Because again, you're trying to deceive with this campaign. We all know he's a career politician, that this is the capstone to his career that started in Washington, D.C. in 1973. That's all he wants. It's a personal thing with him. He wants to be president. And you can't sell that to the American people in 2020. I think they are at a loss how to sell this guy. And so they'll listen to the New York Times. They'll listen to Elizabeth Warren or Joe. They'll listen to Bernie Sanders. They'll listen to anybody. But I think hiding is really the only way that he can win. And I don't think he can win doing that.
Okay, Mr. Schaeffer, thanks again.
Thank you.